Let's please stand for a moment of silence and the pledge. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to call our meeting to order. First, we have the approval of minutes September 22nd and the 29th. We can do them both or individually, whatever the commissioners desire. Any questions on the minutes?
Make the motion to approve September 22nd and 29th minutes.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Next, we'll begin with commissioners' reports and comments. Vice President Baker.
Just like to say good morning to everyone. Thank you, especially for those of you that are in attendance this morning, and stay dry. Have a good day.
Commissioner Kiefer.
Just very brief here. I've had many people reach out to me, inquire about the process for filling the vacancy for the school board vacancy. And of course, we don't have a direct pick in that. We pick from a list of nominees presented to us. But I would just encourage anyone who has an interest in serving on the school board, start thinking about applying if you want to. Once that deadline passes, hasn't been announced yet, but for the committee will make the recommendations of how the rules will work. Consider applying if you have an interest. You can't go backwards after that date passes. And brush up on your resume if that might need worked on. And consider about it. We need a good list of candidates, so please consider applying.
All right, thank you for that reminder. Commissioner Meimelschmidt.
I've got two comments here. The first was a couple weeks ago with the Board of Education and the transfer of budgets between major categories. First, I'd like to, I guess, quote or reference the Maryland Code Annotated Education Article, Section 5-105. And this is fine with me, but it does say if the county commissioners or county council fail to take action on a request for transfer between major categories within 30 days after receipt of a written request sustaining the transfer, the failure to take action constitutes approval. I am fine with not taking action, having that transfer happening, but also looking at that same code, it does say a transfer between major categories shall be made only with the approval of the county commissioners or county council. That's section 2. Section 4 says a county board shall submit to the county governing body a report within 15 days after the end of each month if during that month the county board takes any action that would commit the county board to spend more for the current fiscal year in any major category than the amount approved in its annual budget for that category. So I guess what I'm saying is I would like the school board and the county commissioners to go back to the Maryland Code and do what we're supposed to be doing. And every month, if there's a budget transfer, that it needs to be made, needs to be requested to the county commissioners for approval on a monthly basis. I know in the 2 years that I've been here, I've yet to see that. We get a report quarterly and asking us, hey, we've done this, can you approve it? And that's not how the code is supposed to be done. So I would like to ask that we meet with the school board and Washington County Public Schools and get back to how it's supposed to be done. So that's the first.
Ever since I've been a county commissioner, it's always been quarterly, but I've never had that. I've never read that or had that presented to me. So maybe.
Yeah, I understand.
I'd like to know why we went to quarterly then.
Well, I understand that, and I'm not asking to go back, but I'm saying from now on, if this is how it's supposed to be done, I think we should be doing how it's supposed to be done. That's all that I'm saying.
All right, anything else?
The second thing I do have is, again, talking about with the Board of Education, I know we've all heard this, and I just want to state my opinion publicly, is the school board, we know that their student enrollment is down, and they have come out and said publicly that, if we're down 10%, that could be $30 million in their funding. I personally, and this is just me talking, I want to make sure that we hold the Board of Ed harmless for the decrease in student enrollment if they are willing to hold us harmless the following year. And what I mean by that is if that enrollment goes down, I don't want to cut them $30 million, but at the same time, if we hold them harmless, then that per student amount jumps up significantly. And the following year, if they have an increase in their enrollment because people are back in schools, then our funding would jump up significantly. We can't do that. So if the Board of Education and the state would be willing to talk about a hold harmless and a hold harmless, I'd be willing to do that. I don't want to see our public schools, our system being cut by a 10% in funding. But at the same time, the following year, we cannot afford a 10% increase in our funding. That's my opinion. I just want to put it out there.
Thank you, Court. Commissioner Wagner?
Yeah, and to follow up on Court, I'd just like maybe legal to check everything out Court just talked about and see, just give us an analysis and a recommendation from what Court said, so.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. I wanted to congratulate, I didn't get there, a young man at Crab Joint downtown, a young guy, started a nice business, it's booming it seems like. I didn't make it to that grand opening, but I wanted to congratulate him. And I wanted to also thank Scott Hobbs up there for the CTP tour we had this past week with Maryland Department of Transportation. Basically, they just meet with the counties in Baltimore to discuss transportation needs. And Scott, you did a nice job, and good presentation. We didn't have to say anything. I love it. So, appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. I too want to thank Scott. That was very professional done. There wasn't any really hiccups on any of our technology. So thanks to all the people behind the scenes. And again, we didn't have to say a lot. You did it very thorough. So thank you. One of the things that was brought up to me by a citizen, and I'll just bring it up for suggestion, every now and then this pops up in front of the commissioners, would be consideration of a noise ordinance. And it's always been controversial in the enforcement issue, but if in the future commissioners would want something on the agenda for discussion, we'd gladly consider that. So thank you for that consideration. I also want to remind, yesterday was the 20th anniversary commemoration of the bombing of the USS Cole. The Wibberley family continued their tradition of a ceremony at St. Mark's Church there at Lappin's. I think some of the family was down at Roanoke, but again, it was a somber moment and something we should never forget. On Friday evening, I attended the Farm Bureau banquet, announcement of new officers. They're moving forward, very progressive, and they have a lot of energy and new young farmers in the program, and that was nice to see. And again, I just want to bring up the Northpoint project and all the collaboration of all the different entities to allow that project to go forward, and we have that discussion on our agenda later today. With that being said, that concludes my report. We will now go to staff comments. Please come forward, introduce the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Moser, Real Property Administrator with Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works. I would like to provide an update on the remaining lands at the Public Safety Training Center site. The county has been mowing the 3 rear tracks of the site, totaling 18.8 acres throughout the past year. Due to the completion of the site work, access to the rear tracks are no longer a concern. County staff has determined that it would be beneficial to the county to find a farmer to cut hay on the rear tracks. County staff would propose not charging a fee to the farmer due to the service provided and cost savings to the county. The local farmer has been identified and has verbally agreed to a 5-year lease to cut hay at the site upon approval from the board to move forward. The lease would allow the county to terminate the agreement at any time for any reason. Stipulations in the lease also allow for walking trails and or other training activities to take place on the remaining lands at no cost to the county, no liability for any damaged crops, anything like that.
Hey, Todd, that's about 50 acres, right?
18.8 tillable.
But a total 50.
Parcel.
And so there's only 18 that needs cut?
Yes.
So we're using 32?
Some of it's forested, so
Okay.
this would be the farmable portion
Tillable,
of that project.
yeah.
Well, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
I'm assuming legal's looked over the lease.
That's correct, they have.
I'd motion to accept it.
I mean, I personally would like to look at the lease before I approve something. That's just who I am. But without that's,
Did you look at it, Kurt?
I don't recall that I personally did, but I did talk to Todd about the
So,
proposal.
Andy reviewed the lease, he made revisions to the lease. And so legal has reviewed it. I can pass it along to anyone that would like to look at it.
And this is something the commissioners are required to vote on?
We're seeking direction. I just didn't want to sign a lease without bringing it forward to the board.
It's kind of back to where we were with some
Thank
of the
you for that.
renewals and whether or not that needed to come to the board.
Right.
And so we certainly wanted to make you aware of it, to take any action you deem appropriate before we would move forward. So that's,
Same one, the same information you brought in a month or so ago?
No, that was for BlackRock.
Yeah, with me, I just like a heads up. I don't think it's earth shaking. I mean, if legal reviewed it and all the powers to be reviewed it, and it's demands the farmers volunteered to cut that, and we're not, I'm good with it. I don't, I know where it's at. It's in the back half there in the fields.
Correct.
It's not gonna interfere with the training center, and I guess my only concern was what court said. Legal reviewed it, and they made revisions. Who am I to ask legal,
Yeah, I mean, any lease that I draw up, it does go through the legal department for any revisions or approval.
But anyway, I'd motion to accept it. You guys can, take it from there.
Is that to be a motion or just a consensus?
Consensus, I guess, wouldn't
It
it?
doesn't matter.
I'd make a motion just to make it clear in the minutes.
All right, there's a first on the floor. Is there a second?
I'm not necessarily opposed, but if we're asking for a motion to approve a lease, I'd like to see the lease before I were to approve it. That's me. I would abstain if we're making a vote. I'm not necessarily against it. I don't know what we're voting on. I understand the details have been given to us, the bullet points, but I'd like to see a lease.
that's exactly where I'm at. I'd like to see the lease. I applaud you and thank you for bringing it to us. Thank you very much, but we just get a copy of that lease. I'm sure it'll get approved.
Randy, hearing two possible votes against or abstain, would you want to withdraw your motion if there's not a second? Terry?
Yeah, I'll withdraw it with the fact that I don't know why I'm overlooking 3 attorneys in our office, but I'll withdraw it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is the commissioners want to see a copy of the lease.
So
And
to clarify, this should be brought back as a agenda item with the lease attached to that agenda item?
Give us the lease before you come back. So I don't know how you can get the lease to us. I think it'd be, I don't wanna read the lease the morning I'm making the vote.
So the lease would be attached to the
That would be perfect.
submitted agenda item?
That'd be perfect.
Okay, thank you,
thank you very much.
thank you.
Continuing with staff comments, anyone else come forward, introduce yourself in the matter. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sarah Greaves, Chief Financial Officer. I just wanted to take a brief moment to report to you that we had our second refunding of the year on September 30th for the 2011 and 2012 bonds. I wanted to take an opportunity to thank my staff, as this is normally a very stressful time for them during audit, but we were able to pull it through. And I also want to thank the Commissioners for allowing us to proceed with the refunding. We did fare better than expected. We expected to receive over a 10-year period savings of approximately $1.5 million. We did come out with savings of around $2 million over that 10-year period, an average of $150,000 per year. And the winning bidder came in at a true interest cost of 1.18%. Any questions?
Thank you very
Are you
much.
happy
Thank
with that
you.
interest? You happy with that rate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Very happy.
good.
We are ecstatic.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's worth all the hard work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other staff? Krista, you're up.
The local management board has requested appointment of to 3 members. They are requesting to appoint Dennis Whitmore to serve an unfulfilled term as the community representative through June 30th, 2021. They're requesting to reappoint Kay Hoffman to serve a first full term from September 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2023. And they're requesting to reappoint Brooke Grossman to serve a first 3-year term through June 30th of 2023.
Krista, what was the name of this board again?
The Local Management Board.
I would make a motion to approve the names of all 3 individuals.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a first and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
Mr. Downey, any comments from you?
Just briefly, we have received a request from the Dolman Black Heritage Museum for a letter of support, supporting their request for grant funding that they are seeking from the Department of Housing and Community Development. Looks like they're seeking funds to satisfy the loan agreement with the City of Hagerstown, as well as to provide funding for architectural design and structural planning as that property is renovated.
I would make a motion to approve such a letter.
I'll second it.
Is there going to be any review? There's a second. Any review of the letter before we send it out?
Yeah, we can send a copy to the
Okay,
commissioners.
so in theory, we're in agreement of supporting. Okay, there's a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Did I miss any other staff? No? Next, we'll move on to citizens' participation. And first up, I believe we have Character Counts Month. Would you please come forward, introduce yourself in the matter, and thank you for signing up in advance.
Good morning, I'm Carolyn Brooks. Do you need my address? Jamestown Court in Hagerstown,
We can
Maryland.
find you.
Thanks for allowing me to come in and talk about character counts. October is Nationally Character Counts Month, and our local coalition continues to advocate for making positive choices in the community. One message that we are promoting this month in particular is, think what you will, but watch what you say. We believe and support that there's freedom of thought, and that's welcomed. A person's entitled to think whatever they care to think, negative or positive. But when they give voice to something, some of their thoughts, it can cause damage if it is a negative thought. An example could be, I'll use myself. Maybe among you, someone doesn't think that I'm a very nice person. And you can think that if you care to. But if you say it out loud, then you've done damage to me. So we believe firmly, and we're advocating this month for freedom of thought, not so much freedom of speech. We want people to think before they speak. Want to thank you for your past support of our annual event that celebrates elementary students who demonstrate positive character. You will recall that last month, the event that we had planned and you had supported, we couldn't have it because of COVID, when the community was shut down and schools were canceled. So we were able to recognize the students pretty much the same way, that, with the exception of the luncheon, the red carpet luncheon that we normally had for them. We were able to put packages together that they had their book that we normally would have presented to them, a certificate and a t-shirt. And then in the place of a luncheon, we had an approval through a budget modification. We decided to give each student a restaurant gift certificate, so at their convenience, they could go out and spend the time with their family and celebrate. So even though it wasn't that celebration together, we still made it work. So looking forward to May of 2021, I'm the eternal optimist, and I'm hoping that COVID will be behind us and everybody will be back in school and we'll be able to have our celebration event for the students. This morning I'd like to make a request for your continued sponsorship with options. Our plan A would be to do the event the way we always have, and you have been in attendance. But plan B we'd have to fall back on what we had to do this year and still recognize the students, because it is a worthy endeavor to recognize young people in particular who are making positive choices in our community. So with that, I'd like to request, in the past you granted us $3,000 to have this event, and I'd like your kind consideration of that, and I'll answer any questions about what we are doing with character counts in the community.
I think we've identified a possible source. Susan, it's not, that to come from the Commissioner's Contingency Fund? Is that the source that would be eligible for it? Okay. Commissioners,
Yeah, just on your plan, or if we have to do it the same way we've done it, you had to do it this past year, will the $3,000 still cover all of the expenses?
Oh, yeah, we make it work with, we appreciate any budget that you afford us.
would someone like to make a motion to cover that through the contingency fund for that amount?
I'll make the motion to support the $3,000 fund out of the contingency fund.
Is there a second?
I would second, and just to clarify, that would be for character counts to use the money for either option A or option B if need be.
2021.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's going, and
So
we have
behind
a
my mask, I'm smiling, thank you.
And
we have a proclamation we'd
I
like
just
to
wanna
read for the month.
I just want to say thank you for everything that you do with character counts. The prior board member, I know all the hard work and everything to get in there, and it's an amazing program, so thank you.
Thank you.
First, thank you for coming in, and it was an easy vote for the commissioners. The impact that your group of character counts has on the community pays dividends now and into the future. So heartfelt thanks from all the commissioners for what happens with your organization. The Character Counts Month, October 2020, whereas young people will be the stewards of our communities, nation, and world in critical times, and the present and future well-being of our society requires an evolved, caring citizenry with good character. Whereas concerns about the character training of children has taken on a new sense of urgency as violent crime against youth threatens the physical and psychological well-being of the nation. Whereas, more than ever, children need strong character, constructive guidance from families and their communities, including schools, youth organizations, religious institutions, and civic groups. Whereas, the character of a nation is eminently a strong character of its individual citizens, and benefits young people learn that good character counts in personal relationships, in schools, and workplace. And whereas character development is first and foremost an obligation of families practiced by faith communities, schools, and youth, civic, and human service organizations also play an important role in supporting family efforts by fostering and promoting good character. Every adult has the responsibility to promote the development of good character. Now therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, do hereby recognize October 2020 Character Counts Month, which change and encourage our citizens, schools, business, and government to support Washington County's Character Counts program. Congratulations and thank you for all you do. Like up front with all the commissioners for a photograph. Yeah, absolutely. Right here in the center. Yeah, just right here. Continuing, we have Leslie Hart up next. Farm of the Year. Leslie, introduce yourself and your guest. And
Good morning.
good morning.
Leslie Hart, Washington County Department of Business Development. I have with me who just this last minute found out that he has received Farm of the Year. This is Jim Matheny. He owns Stonewall Angus, located in the Fairplay area.
And Jim wore his cow mask to celebrate.
So this marks the 10th year for Washington County recognizing a Farm of the Year. It promotes greater understanding of the challenges faced by today's farmers. Production, conservation, preservation, community involvement, and dedication to farming and agriculture is the gold standard for this award. Being that this is the 10th year, I do want to recognize the other winners that we have showcased over the past 10 years. Creekbound Farm, Aliabad Farm, Misty Meadow Farm, Big Cork Vineyard and Winery, Braveheart Farm, Long Delight Farm, Star Equestrian, Ernst Grain and Livestock, and Palmera. And then this year we add Stonewall Angus to this great honor. Stonewall Angus Farm is located in the Fairplay, Maryland, is on a 50-acre farm dedicated to producing registered Angus cattle. 100 additional acres are leased to provide food for the cattle. The cattle eat what is grown on the farm. This veteran-owned, thank you for your service, farm has been operating since 1987. The farm is owned by Jim and Ellen Matheny and their daughters Stephanie and grandchildren Garrett and Laurel, along with Joey Seiler, help on the farm as well. Stonewall Angus raises top quality, affordable beef that can be purchased through their on-farm store. Stonewall Angus has been a lifelong dream for Jim. Through diligence, perseverance, and sacrifice, Jim has grown this family operation. This is a quote from his daughter. Farming is woven into his soul, a true love. Agriculture is the root of the American way of life. It is pure and simple. And this exemplifies Jim Matheny. Farmer Jim, as he is known, is dedicated to giving back to his community and state as well. Maryland Angus Association Board of Directors, Washington County Ag Marketing Committee, member of the Right to Farm Board, and he has supported 4-H and FFA youth programs. It's just a listing of a few of his accolades. This time I would like to congratulate Jim Matheny, Stonewall Angus, your 2020-2021 Farm of the Year.
Comments, please, Mr. Matheny?
Any comments? He said he was going to kill me.
I came in here this morning as a favor to Leslie. I thought, wasn't sure what it was all about. I had no idea it was this.
I think you have something for him.
Yeah, please join us, Leslie, and join us as well.
We don't always get to surprise them. This was a...
This is the whole family, right, Leslie? Yeah.
Socially distanced.
Yeah.
Here we go. First of all, I think many of us on the board knows you and recognize your name, and from sheriff to a farmer, your family should be very proud of their sons for that. Board of County Commissioners wish to present the certificate of recognition of 2020-2021 Farmer of the Year, Stonewall Angus. We, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, hereby applaud Stonewall Angus LLC on achieving the 2020-2021 Washington County Farm of the Year. In recognition for over 30 years of dedication and commitment, providing the highest quality beef cattle in Washington County. Thank you for your continued commitment to the agricultural community, your focus on environmental stewardship and sustainability, and dedication and through volunteerism. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Commissioners, may we join up front for a picture, and the family will get pictures with you and with your, up front here, up center.
Okay, look at him stand back. Get up here. Careful, Mom.
You need an escort. How about now just one with family?
One for the family.
Just family.
You gotta go back again. I'm sorry. You gotta go back.
Come on.
Congratulations. Good job. Jim, I have a feeling that's a team effort there, isn't it? Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda, resolution for Northpoint Development. Susan Small, you're up. Please introduce yourself in the matter. Whoops, did I go ahead of one? I'm sorry, I'm one ahead. Sorry, Susan. It's all this fog and steam. Establishment of the one entity in Washington County as the local authority in behavioral health service. Rick Rock and Earl, please come forward, introduce the matter.
Good morning, everybody. Rick Rock, Washington County Mental Health Authority. We are revisiting this issue. We presented this previously in September, and we were asked to come back to clarify the composition of the community work group as well as projected timeline. So we left that meeting. We've come back to report that we have 3 members who will be, from the Washington County Mental Health Advisory Committee. Excuse me, 3 members from the County Health Advisory Committee, and 3 independent community representatives who will be participating in the work group. So we'll also invite our commissioner liaisons to those respective boards as well, or yes, those boards. So. We're projecting a timeline. We're a little bit behind now, but we'd like to finish this at least by mid-January, and so that we can come back to this body with a recommendation as to what that local behavioral health authority will look like. So we're requesting a recommendation from you all so that we can proceed with the community work group to work to establish what that single entity is in the county.
And the 3 community entities are individuals from the community are also representative of the advisory board, health advisory board.
Thanks, Earl.
Commissioner, thoughts, comments, motion?
I'd motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, have first and second. Any comments, thoughts, commissioners? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Michael.
Just thank you both, Rick and Earl. Certainly COVID has taken the center of attention for most people in the community, especially the health department and those health-related agencies, but mental health is something that's still important, and thank you for not forgetting about it and still keeping that in the forefront and trying to find a path forward for more efficiency and better results.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
More important than ever now.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Susan, I believe you're up now. Thank you very much. Susan, please introduce yourself in the resolution and topic. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Susan Small, Director of Business Development. Today I'm here to present the approval for the resolution to endorse the State of Maryland's $2 million Maryland Economic Development Assistance Authority Fund. It's a bridge loan to the Board of County Commissioners. The State of Maryland Department of Commerce, under what's known as the MEDAF, the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Authority, has agreed to conditionally loan the Board of County Commissioners in the amount of $2 million. The assistance is to be used for the eligible project costs related to roadway improvements and the reconstruction of Vasel Boulevard in support of the larger development plan undertaken by Northpoint Development, which includes the construction of 4 buildings and the creation of an estimated 1,500 permanent full-time jobs. The current conditions of Vasel Boulevard are not adequate for the scope of the Northpoint Development project, and Vasel Boulevard will need significant improvements. On February 25th, 2020, the Board of County Commissioners approved a private-public partnership agreement between and among Northpoint Development, the City of Hagerstown, and the county for funding of the roadway infrastructure improvements necessary, totaling $6 million in associated costs. The proposed resolution represents the county's portion of that partnership, and the resolution was attached for your review. Any questions?
Make the motion to approve the resolution.
Have first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next up, Investment Committee. Sarah, please introduce yourself and this topic.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sarah Greaves, Chief Financial Officer. I'm here on behalf of the Investment Committee. I was in front of you a few weeks ago to get the investment policy statement approved, and in doing so, I am back to request if the Commissioners would appoint a Commissioner to serve on the Investment Committee. The ARF does specify a 4-year term. It would be for the remainder of your term, and then as new county commissioners are elected, or as you remain, we will renew that or request a reappointment at that time. So I am here to ask for the commissioners to appoint a representative for the investment committee as stated in the investment policy statement.
If it's okay with the board, I would like to be the commissioner on that investment committee.
Tickles me to death, Court.
I would make a motion to appoint Court Schmidt as our commissioner representative.
Is there a second?
I'd second it.
Have a first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, I'll abstain from voting for myself.
Which way would you have voted?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. Next up, bid award purchase safety training center. Please come forward to introduce yourself and the topic. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Good morning, Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering.
Subject before you is bid award PUR 1401 Public Safety Training Center. Recommended motion move to award the bid to responsive bidder, Low Bar Construction Management Incorporated, also known as Low Bar Incorporated of Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, with the lowest base bid amount of $6,980,000, and also for alternate number 1, GC number 1, which is the additional classrooms, for an amount of $878,000 for a total sum of $7,858,000. Also to move the submission of FY21 Maryland Capital Bond Bill application and to accept the awarded funds and approve the execution of grant documents upon receipt from the Maryland Department of General Services, and move to approve the budget transfer to the project to cover the cost of alternate number GC1 and other projects costs. The project was advertised as we normally do on the various media's websites. We had 78 persons or companies download the bid document. We received 11 bids, which were opened. We went through the bids and evaluated the bids to see if they were in order, to make sure they did meet all the qualifications and expectations of the bid. The engineer's estimate for this project was $7 million for the base bid and $1 million for the alternate one. In the process of doing this evaluation, we look to see that the bidders do meet the qualifications that are being asked, and also we try to select the least expensive bid to meet the county's needs. At this time, I will turn it over to Scott Hives to conclude with the recommendation of awarding PUR 1401.
The Public Safety Training Center at 9238 Sharpsburg Pike is a proposed multi-phase project that will be utilized by police, fire, and emergency services personnel serving in and around Washington County. The first phase of the work was recently completed and involved the site work. Phase 2 involves construction of the training building with offices, classrooms, kitchen, weight room, and locker rooms. Alternate GC1 includes providing additional classrooms. The building project is a 450 consecutive day calendar project with an anticipated notice to proceed in November 2020 and completion date in the spring of 2022. Bid documents include liquidated damage in the amount of $500 per calendar day for work beyond the completion date. As Rick mentioned, as far as the request for application, the county received an application packet for a capital bond bill grant, and the grant funding allocated in FY21 is $500,000. Once the application is submitted and accepted, the state will provide a grant agreement for the county to review and execute. The county also received an FY20 grant funding for this project. There's also a request to transfer funds into the project so that the additional classrooms can be scheduled and completed prior to the original timeline. Realized savings in the form of bond funding from another recently completed capital improvement project will cover the additional request. A resolution to authorize the use of these bond savings is anticipated to come before the board later this fiscal year. Commissioner approval through the budget adjustment form is the first step of the reallocation. This is a capital improvement plan project, BLD 093, with a current available budget of $7,270,274. As mentioned, realized cost savings from the Colonel Henry K. Douglas Drive extended project, RDI 067, and there's a correction, it would be in the amount of $1,200,000, and that's written correctly on the budget adjustment form. This money would be transferred to the project to cover the total expenses. Total expenses are estimated at $8,458,000, including the proposed bid award, the alternate GC1, which is the additional classroom work, $200,000 for inspection and testing, $200,000 for utilities, $100,000 for furniture and equipment, and $100,000 for contingencies. We have concurrences listed as Director of Emergency Services and Washington County Sheriff. Dave Hayes and Sheriff Mullender are both here today, and I also want to say how the important role they served, along with Kevin Lewis and Rick Kemmerer and Brennan Garrett, as well as our architect throughout the planning and design process. This was a long process moving forward with planning and design, and we're excited here to present this to you. You have renderings and aerial map of the project, and like we mentioned and Rick mentioned, there's a grant application as part of the recommended motion, as well as a budget adjustment. So with that, if there's any questions?
My only question is in this bid. I guess alternate D, there's solar panels for $224,900 under the low bar construction. And I know it's not on this fiscal impact, but did we do an estimate of what the, I guess the return on investment would be on for that?
We originally looked at this as an option moving forward with what that would cost in the future for some of these things. So we originally did in the early planning stages, did a return on investment of what that would bring. And then moving forward, we wanted to see what those bids would be and then if there's any future plans for that. So recently none, but in the early stages we did.
Okay. For $200,000 on a $8 million project, just wondering, how much energy that could save the county, how much cost that could save instead of us leasing solar panels, actually owning them. There's a big difference. So that was just my question.
Scott, at Low Bars, they got a good track record with the county?
Yes, they have several projects throughout South Central PA, West Virginia, Maryland. They had a project in Aberdeen. They have numerous projects. Our architect has worked with them on previous projects. So we are comfortable with the work that they provided, the resources and references that we've checked.
Commissioners, any other comments?
You want two motions, right?
Yes, sir.
That's my question. You want to award the bid, there's a bond bill and a transfer
And
of
the
funds,
budget
is that
transfer.
correct?
I'd motion to award the bid, with a motion to, language is, motion to award the bid to Low Bar,
Okay.
but then the second motion would be what?
Or
To
included?
also the budget transfer.
Budget transfer, yeah. To
That would
approve
all be
that.
one motion, not a second motion.
Oh, okay, all.
Yeah.
And the capital bond.
And the capital bond bill
Yeah.
also.
Could someone
application.
repeat that for clarity?
Award the bid to Low Bar. Also award the approval of the transfer of the funds and also the Maryland Capital Bond Bill application, which is actually 3 items that we're needing.
And the bids including the ad alternate, which is the additional classrooms, GC1. Yes.
Basically, it's a motion as set forth in the ARF.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Does that satisfy you?
yeah.
I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah, first and second, is there any other discussion?
If at some point you could get what the solar panels purchasing them would be, that'd be nice. Not leasing.
Any other comments? If not, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you very much. Thanks for making that clear. Next up, bid award, airport hangar. Garrison, please introduce yourself and the topic. Welcome back, Scott.
My name is Garrison Flossinger, the director of the Hagerstown Regional Airport, and we're here to discuss Hangar 21 Vestibule.
So we're both here to request recommended motion to award the Airport Hangar 21 Vestibule contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Hawkeye Construction of Cockeysville, Maryland, in the amount of $124,900 and approve a budget adjustment in the amount of $100,000 to cover the cost of the project. The project was advertised in the Herald Mail, on the county's website, and email marketplace Advantage. 9 bids were received on Wednesday, September 30th. The bids were evaluated and the low bid is in order. The engineer's estimate for the work was $125,000. The project involves construction of an entry, vestibule, and stairs to the north side of Hangar 21 to provide public access to the first and second floor. The stairs will provide safe public access to second floor offices to expand Royal Aircraft and provide other potential business office space. The work includes construction of an addition on a concrete and block foundation with metal walls and roof, steel stairs and railings, doors, windows, and electrical, mechanical, and fire alarm modifications. This is a 180 consecutive calendar day contract with an anticipated notice to proceed in November 2020 and completion date in the spring of 2021. The bid documents include liquidated damages in the amount of $500 per calendar day for each day beyond that. The project will utilize funds from Hangar 21 Stairs account, BLD 099, and the capital improvement plan. Receive a contribution from the tenant of the building for $5,000 and utilize airport reserve funds. And I'll let Garrison explain a little more about the funds involved.
Thank you, Scott. The funds available are from a previous local match that is no longer needed from the runway rehabilitation project that was 100% federally funded this year. The funds will be transferred from the airport reserves to the project building 099, and the budget adjustment is attached as well. I also wanted to say thanks to Scott and his team for designing and helping us put out this for bid. Our engineering department is one of the best here, and just wanted to say thanks for them and their efforts.
Just for clarification, Hangar 21 is county-owned, leased by Royal Aircraft. Is
That's
that
correct.
correct? Okay.
And we have previous experience with Hawkeye Construction. They actually were the contractor on the work at the airport with the LED lighting at the runway bridges and taxiway bridge.
Okay, commissioners, any comments, questions, motion?
Make the motion as stated.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, first and second, is there any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, the Benevola Newcomer Road Stream Restoration. Scott, please introduce yourself in the matter.
Yes, Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering. I'm here to recommend the board award the Benevola Newcomer Road Stream Restoration contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Green Ridge Contractors of Williamsport, Maryland, in the amount of $283,551.70. The project was advertised in the Herald Mail on the county's website and email Marketplace Advantage. 14 bids were received on Wednesday, September 23rd. The bids were evaluated and the low bid is in order. The engineer's estimate for the work was $300,000. The project involves the stabilization of approximately 100 lineal feet of stream, including the installation of imbricated riprap, J-hook, and plantings, as well as road widening in the area of the work. The project is a 275 consecutive calendar day contract with an anticipated notice receipt in November and a completion date in the summer of 2021. The bid documents include liquidated damages in amount of $250 per calendar day for work beyond the completion date. The project will utilize available funds from the Stormwater Retrofits account, GNG 039, and the Capital Improvement Plan. This is the most cost-effective and practical alternative. The stream has caused significant erosion, and stabilization is necessary to protect property and improve water quality in the Antietam watershed. So with that, if there's any questions?
I just have a curious question. On your map here, there's a bend in the, well, right there, a bend in the stream where all the erosion. Wonder why it's that particular spot and what happens to all the other spots. Is that the only one we'll have to fix someday, or?
There's evaluations that's done throughout the streams in Washington County and the watersheds, and what we've found is to be able to provide some of the stream restoration work along our infrastructure, in this case the roads, is a way to be able to solve both issues.
Because the road, okay, I get it.
And over time, the streams meander, and this has caused issues along the edge of the road, so we're able to do some road reconstruction, and then also stream stabilization.
Yeah, it was just a curious question. I would just see what happens to the rest of the stream, but I see now. I'd motion to approve.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any other comments, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Next up, Susan Buchanan, fiscal year 2021 strategic demolition grants.
Good morning, Susan Buchanan, Director, Office of Grant Management, and I believe listening in on Zoom is John Janakis, the Director of Development from the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, or MEDCO. Here this morning requesting a motion to approve the submission of a grant application to the FY21 Strategic Demolition Grant Program, requesting $345,359.70, and to accept funding as awarded and then approval to execute a subrecipient agreement between the county and MEDCO upon award. In January of 2019, the county purchased the former Miller Lumber property located at 122-142 West Potomac Street in Williamsport, Maryland, using grant funds provided by the Strategic Demolition Grant Program. The county then entered into a ground lease agreement with MEDCO, which is improving the property for use in a long-term lease with the National Park Service for the relocation of the C&O Canal National Historic Park headquarters. In addition, the county agreed to pursue grant funding offered through the Department of Housing and Community Development Strategic Demolition Grant Program on behalf of Medco for necessary demolition of structures located on the county-owned portion of the site. If the grant application is successful and funds are awarded, the county will enter into a subrecipient agreement with Medco. There is no fiscal impact to the county. The awarded funds will be transferred to Medco. While there is a 25% matching requirement associated with the grant, Medco's investment will cover that. Any questions or concerns?
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. I vote thank you, Susan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
The voice from nowhere.
Next up, our volunteer coordinator report.
Hey, going, that looks like Ole Griffin coming up here. Bear hunter.
Here before 11:30.
Outdoors.
She might be watching.
Grizzly.
Good morning,
sir.
Commissioners. In the package there, I sent a package out to you. This year has been an interesting year for the Volunteer Fire and Rescue Division Emergency Services. COVID came in, changed our business practices in the fire service and also with the public. We've been doing a lot of meetings. We're trying to figure out some different ways for fundraising. We're trying to work with building a combination system in Washington County. As everybody knows, that's going to be a challenge. Working with the Washington County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association, trying to rebrand the association. We have good leadership, has taken positions in there. President Fishak's been a great help. He's guiding the association in the right direction. Chandler Fishak is working very hard with recruitment and retention. I think we brought in about 80 candidates for volunteers in the county, but something we got to think about that. That seems like the number's low, but during COVID, that's a good number. A lot of times the people who's getting interested in the volunteer system, they can't come visit our fire stations. You know, we're keeping the public out of the fire stations when you have friends there and they want to be with their friends, but they can't come in the stations. That's not a very incentive way to get people come into your fire stations to spend time with you. Some of the other things we've been working on is the EOC. When COVID hit, I spent like 45 days there trying to assist in supplies, getting agreements to the towns, the health department, working with emergency management, with Tom Brown and his staff. It's been quite interesting. We learned a lot about county government that way and the health department. Some of the other things, we've been working on is a lot of fit testing for the volunteers and also healthcare providers. About 250 fit tests has taken place in the last couple of months. Working with Director Hayes almost on a daily basis on projects and supplies, grants, background investigations, outreach projects, Project Lifesaver. So, overall, I kind of been working with risk management, Tracy, on a lot of the county properties and apparatus, trying to get that figured out. Overall, it's been a great ride, learning a lot of people, learning government. I think it's a critical time for the volunteers and Division of Emergency Services. Work as a partnership. The future of our county is providing service to our communities in finding proper funding, manpower, apparatus, reserve fleets. They're all big challenges in retaining our volunteers and finding new ways to raise revenue is probably one of our biggest concerns right now. But other than that, it's a great job. I enjoy getting out, working with all the volunteers. Getting to each station, I've visited them twice now, and that seems to be a great way to communicate with the volunteers, because their schedules are different than ours. You gotta meet with them a lot of times in the mornings, in the evenings, weekends. You gotta adjust your schedule to when you can get out and meet the people who's operating these stations. But other than that, the report's in front of you. I got a business model update, what I gave you a few years back, but it's updated on some of the things was changed in the county. I'll let those for you all to review, and kind of gives you an idea what everybody does in the county.
Just for the record, for the public, there's about 2 pages here of what Ole's duties are. You sure you do all this, Ole? 50 hours a week, 28,000 miles. That's only since January. 60 meetings, 700 text responses, 79 personnel recruited. Now, I guess what I'm interested in might be is your job is also liaison between the county and the volunteers. How's that going? I know Dale's been a great asset to the association, to the volunteer association. I agree with that.
Yes. And that's what it is. You gotta be able to work with both sides, and you gotta get the same message out to everybody. A lot of times going through text or email, they hear rumor or whatever. You gotta be the rumor control person. Take good information back to the people so they understand really what is going on. Because the rumor mill, it works against everybody. And every day, working with Director Hayes, I go down to his office and we start out the day. What's the new rumor of the day? Working with Assistant Director Brian Albert at the Communication Center. We hear so much things. I try to work with him every day. If there's a problem, what's going on in a response area, we try to work it out that day. We try not to let things go a couple of days at a time. We try to get right on them. But we don't have the information. We find the right person can give them the right information.
I have just questions on your write-up here. Because you have under concerns for the volunteer fire and EMS services. If you could just explain some of these, so just get a little more in depth here. But the first one is you have inadequate staffing of Department of Emergency Services part-time drivers for volunteer fire stations. Their driving staffing needs not being met. My first question is, once we get the SAFER grant and we have that regional, are those part-times going to be able to go out to the other ones, since those are going to have full-time people there? But if you could explain a little bit more about this.
Sure, it's Director Hayes, he's here. Our part-time drivers can only work so many hours per week. And the needs, what's the request for the amount of hours being asked to fill these spots, we just don't have enough of part-time people to fill the request what's being asked right now, or budget money. If Director Hayes could come up, he could, give insight on that and with the grant, how that might work to help this situation out. But I know every corporation is putting in, everybody's asking for it, but there's just not enough of people, part-time staff, and budget money to fill the request.
So to kind of speak to the SAFER grant specific in itself, it will free up some of the part-time hours, but 2 of those stations currently aren't using any staff at all. So they won't have any relief as far as part-time hours. Clear Spring and Williamsport both are using part-time hours, and that will free up some hours, but it won't. So as an example, we're asked for around 3,500 hours a month of career staffing coverage from our part-time cadre. We're budgeted just over $1,400 a month. So even if we had enough part-time people, which we do not, we wouldn't have the budget to cover that either. So one of the things we've identified and we've briefed to the Chiefs Committee is to update what was originally the firefighter staffing plan that had 5 phases to reflect more accurately what we've ended up doing in step 1 and now step 2, and how we've measured the system moving forward. It still needs to come back to the commissioners for your review and endorsement. But if there's an additional need for career staffing, what that would look like and how we actually measure that to determine when a station might need some help. Ole hit on the volunteer incentives, and I think that's a big thing. We just talked about a little over a week ago about getting back in before this group. If you remember the volunteer incentives we proposed with the original budget. That money is still there, but we held that back in case we needed it for revenue replacement. It looks like we're in a little better position there, so we want to get back in, get those volunteer incentives out there. All this is designed to decrease the footprint of what we might need in the future for career staff. But the biggest issue is we just don't have enough budget, and if we had the budget, we would hire more part-time staffing to try to cover that, but we're held to that ACA requirement of 29 hours a week, so that pulls us back.
Yeah, you know, you were sort of hired as a liaison. I keep going back to that because that's for the conduit between us and them. Is there anything within reasons you'd request, or anything you don't have, or anything you need, or your biggest problem?
Well, as we know, budget time is always tough to ask for money.
It's always money, yeah, I know.
But as you see, in the first couple months, I travel a lot. I'm using a 2007 vehicle right now with 198,000 miles on it. Maintenance is going to catch up with us, and I'm very appreciative I have a vehicle to use right now. But to be effective with your job, you got to be on the road, and you got to have a dependable vehicle. It's not just in Washington County. The state legislation, Maryland State Firemen Association, out of the county and stuff. So you're on the road a lot, traveling a lot. But you got a dependable vehicle. Also, responses. I do respond on calls, emergency calls, and the duty officer program in the county. So you got to have a dependable vehicle, and I know budgets are tough. Maybe there's a grant out there that we can find a vehicle or whatever. Mm-hmm. And just, working with Division of Emergency Services, I know in the future they're going to need some help with management, with maybe some additional manpower there for supervision. And I feel that if I'm able to do my job here and be continually successful at it and be able to help the division out, I'm willing to do that if that needs to be done.
Gotcha.
I just have one more question on your concerns. You
Yes,
have
sir.
LoSAP funds being utilized for purposes other than the original designated. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the volunteers are hearing that the LoSAP program is going to be possibly looked at and taken, and some of that funding being used for other things. Now, that's a rumor what's out there, but there is concerns with the volunteer system that money was invested for a certain project, and they just want to make sure that that's not going to be gotten into and being used other than designated for what it was used for.
Well, I would like to end that rumor right now.
Okay.
LoSAP is LoSAP, and it's only going to be used for LoSAP. It's a separate fund that is required by law that money is going in there, and that's what it's going to be used for. We can end that rumor today.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, and I'm sure that will be something the volunteers wants to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess when you hear rumors like that, you bring them to us, and
Yes, sir.
yeah, so we can, sort of like court just did, crush it.
Hey, Commissioners, any other comments, questions from Mr. Griffith?
Only if you could talk about loss of revenue due to COVID. Obviously, in my mind, as I understand it, probably twofold: decline in calls during the period of COVID, where a lot of people were staying home, but also the fundraising aspect of the volunteer organizations. Some companies have been successful in getting something started back up, maybe not to the level where they were used to pre-COVID, but Fairplay had a fundraiser that was in person. And what are our companies doing? How big of a concern is that? Do we have any companies you think might have serious concerns about weathering the storm until we can get the firefighters hired and in the stations?
Commissioner
interim
Kiefer,
period.
I do think there is concern with some departments. Some departments does not have a lot of cash reserves, and some of them's using them for staffing, drivers, apparatus payments. And, a lot of them's trying to do internet raffles right now, but everybody's jumping on that bandwagon now. And now some people was real successful. There's so many doing it. It's not as good as it was at one time. The social outings, we're trying to get some fundraisers in there, but you're limited to, your capacity. And people really don't know how long this is gonna last. When you make your next decision to buy another piece of apparatus, if you don't know you have funding sources in the future. So that could change people buying apparatuses, still using older equipment, and your maintenance and stuff on those apparatus is gonna be going up.
Since you mentioned apparatus, my other question was, how is the reserve apparatus fleet going to be replenished? And I know at one time, we had money in our budget and our capital budget for the apparatus fleet replacement. How many companies would you estimate are facing that situation where they're in critical need of a reliable piece of equipment?
Well, I'd say there's several. Right now, Director Hayes can attest to this. Boonesboro Fire Department, we have a fire truck that we're loaning out. It's been out on loan now for 3 months. There is no reserve fire engine, Class A engine, same way barring an ambulance. I've been calling other departments, other jurisdictions, to just find a piece of apparatus for the volunteers to use till they get something, back in service. And like I say, our one fire truck's been out for 3 months, and it's still sitting at that one station because they got a truck goes in and out of service all the time. But once that truck's sold, that's not gonna be available. And there's no reserve fire truck. And I know at one time we had money in the reserve for the reserve fleet, but we had used for other things. Maybe we can find if there's some of this safer grant money which not being utilized, and maybe we could possibly use that to work on some type of reserve apparatus fleet. But that's a critical. Our fleet is an aging fleet in Washington County. We have a lot of older apparatus in this county.
Commissioners, any other comments, thoughts? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ole.
Next item, LP 15 monitor. David Chisholm, welcome. Please introduce yourself and the topic.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Chisholm, Assistant Director of EMS Operations for the Division of Emergency Services. Come before you today to ask for permission to replace 2 LifePak 15 cardiac monitor defibrillators. The recommendation is a motion to authorize the Division of Emergency Services to purchase 2 replacement LifePak 15 cardiac monitor defibrillators, taking advantage of a 50% discount due to a discontinued parts availability for the specific model. Report in brief, the division currently owns 8 LifePak 15 cardiac monitor defibrillators that are carried on various response apparatus throughout its fleet. Of the 8 monitor defibrillators, 4 are now subject to a manufacturer notification of a discontinued replacement part. Should a failure of this part occur for the 2 that exceed the 8-year life expectancy, the monitor would be rendered inoperable, unrepairable, and require immediate replacement through purchasing a new monitor at full cost. Discussion. The cardiac monitor defibrillators are utilized to assist in the assessment of cardiac patients and the delivery of critical life-saving interventions such as defibrillation, cardioversion, and transcutaneous pacing of patients suffering from life-threatening cardiac events. The life expectancy of the LifePak 15 is 8 years, at which points the unit would be scheduled for replacement under the division's operating budgets. Of the 4 LifePak monitor defibrillators impacted by this issue, 2 have reached those at that end of life in 2021 and would be scheduled for replacement in the upcoming budget. Due to discontinuation of the parts, the manufacturer is offering a 50% trade, so we can get 2 monitors for the price of 1.
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice. Where's the money coming from? I guess that's where Sarah's easing her way up that way.
She's sneaking in behind me, isn't she?
I was creeping up. Thank you for commissioners for letting me come up. Originally, we were thinking that the funding would have to come from reserves, but because we did just have that recent refunding for the bonds, we do have some savings available through that funding that we had originally budgeted in fiscal year 21 for our debt service. So that would be a viable source.
And if I may, the other source would be the cost of the contract for maintenance for our existing LifePaks. We would save about $3,000 in that category because the new monitors come with a 1-year warranty. Additionally, I'll add that there are ADMS companies in the county facing the same thing we are, and they're all looking to start purchasing new monitors. So the savings in the maintenance account alone might provide substantial money towards this effort. So that's another source of income.
My next question is 2 enough?
Yes, sir, I can replace the other two, through budget process, but if you want me to buy 4, I'll be happy to.
Well, I mean.
I think, go ahead.
The other ones expire in, this budget year coming up and then the budget year after that. Reach their end of life.
The other caveat to that is, correct me if I'm wrong, if they fail before their 8-year service life,
Yes.
it's 100% replacement.
100% replacement.
So it's a calculated risk until they get to that.
The vendor replaces them.
Gotcha, okay.
But the 50% discount ends December 15th. That's where we're at.
Hey, Commissioners, their thoughts, comments, a motion with the recommended funding source would be, would you repeat?
Yeah, the recommended funding source would be utilization of the savings from the maintenance contract, with the difference coming from debt service savings for fiscal year '21.
If I could just ask Dave a question for clarification.
Yes, sir.
We're taking advantage of a 50% discount due to the discontinued parts for that specific model. Are we buying something that's already antiquated?
No, we're buying a version 4 LifePak 15.
Okay.
These are version 1 and 2s. These monitors are all 8 to 10 years old. They're coming up on their 8-year mark. So no, it's current technology, sir.
Okay.
I'd motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chisholm. Next up, Debbie Condo, Darrell Brown, employee vacation carryover. Please introduce yourself in the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Deborah Condo, Deputy Director of Human Resources.
Darrell Brown, County Supervisor, Budget and Finance.
We're here this morning to request a modification of the vacation accrual carryover from the 250 hours that was moved from December 31st to July 1st of 2021. We'd like to motion to allow a carryover of 330 hours, effective pay ending June 25th, 2021, instead, to take into account vacation accruals from January 1 through June 30th of 2021, which we did not take into consideration the last time we presented.
I know I got a lot of calls on this right afterwards, and the intent was exactly what this is to get people, we don't want everybody to take vacation between now and December 31st, but I also don't want the people that were at 245 hours that are perfectly fine now that get hurt at 250 because they were taking vacation next August. So I think this is a great idea, thank you, and if there's any other consideration, I'll motion to move it to 330 as pay ending, 330 hours pay ending on June 21, and go back to the 250 hours on December 31st.
I'd be fine with that. Darrell, did you blow up your software system? Did you figure that out yet?
There will be a manual entry.
Okay. First, we have a
but we're doing it as of, we're asking for a cutoff as of,
okay, we do have a
June.
motion on the floor. I would need a second to begin discussion.
Second.
Second, I'm sorry to interrupt. To have
Well,
first
my question again.
discussion.
He answered it. We're good. I'm good.
But basically, it's, 6/25 is the pay end date for that pay period. We run a report and be able to make the adjustments accordingly.
Commissioners, any other comments? Wayne, Terry?
Same as last time when we voted on this, I'll be a no as well. It seems like we're trying to change the number of hours, the dates to benefit certain people, and I think this request came out of for that reason. You mentioned the 245 hours. You gotta draw that line somewhere, and we keep moving that line to accommodate certain people, and I don't think that's a fair way to do it, so, sorry.
Any other comments? If not, have first and a second motion. Is no more comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No.
3-2.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I need a motion to go in closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
Is there a second?
I'll Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Please note, we'll be coming back out after closed session for the agenda item, appointment of school board nomination commission. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Next on our agenda item is the appointment of the school board nominating commission.
So I'd like to make the motion of the school board nominating commission, that Marilee Kearns will be the chair of the commission. The Citizen Advisory Council, which was given to us, so the member of the Washington County Citizen Advisory Council was given us to the Board of Education. Of that list, we select Brian Albert. For the education representative, I would like to nominate, is it Marcia Flowers, a teacher at Hancock. And for the business member, I'd like to nominate Dr. Clobber from HCC. Our Senators delegation selected Shelley McIntyre. Our delegates from our delegation selected Brenda Cham. And the Board of Ed's selection would be Mike Gessford. And if I'd like to make that full nomination of the committee.
I will second the motion for those individuals named.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you very much.